Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fulfillment Project. My guest today is Bill Mitchell, a business attorney who spends his days doing something most of us only think about when something's gone wrong. He helps owners build, protect, and pass on the things they've poured their lives into. We tend to think of a lawyer as someone you call in a crisis. But the best ones, the ones I work with, and I don't personally work with Bill, but it sounds like he's a good one. They are a steady hand at your shoulder for years. Part counselor, part translator, part guardian of everything you've built. That's the work I want to get in today. Not the contracts, but the people behind them and what it means to be trusted with someone's life's work. Bill, welcome to the show.
Hey, Andrew, very good to be here and look forward to our conversation.
Me too. So, Bill, take me back to the beginning. What made you want to be a lawyer?
I was brainwashed. My dad was a lawyer. My grandfather was a lawyer and a judge. So I didn't really make a decision. I just kind of kept walking down the path that had been well groomed for me. But here's the great news. It's worked out. There may have been a couple of years where I wondered what the heck I was doing. But I'm grateful that I entered this profession, and I'm not sure there are that many other things I could have done where I would have enjoyed it as much and it's been as rewarding.
When you're at a barbecue and you're talking to a stranger, Bill, how do you describe to them what you do?
Well, I really have kind of two law practices, if you will. One is the lawyer you were just talking about, it. I call it traditional business lawyer, the counselor or concierge that helps and counsels clients. Most of my clients are owner operators of small, medium-sized businesses. Many of my clients that I've had for 20, 30, 35 years. And it's a long-standing relationship where they bring all of their legal problems to me, and we work them out, sort them out. Sometimes I need to bring in another attorney depending on the expertise. And then about 20 years ago, I started working in the debt relief industry and developed an expertise in first starting at working with debt settlement companies. And then over about 10 years ago, working with consumers who were struggling with credit card debt.
Okay, you hit a nail. I just want to jump right in. Credit card debt. Something like 90% of people in America have less than $3,000 in savings. If a big bill came up right now, they couldn't pay it. So what are you seeing working with these people? How do you approach that crisis right now?
Just to highlight your point, in the 70s and 80s, the savings rate in America was around 11%. Currently, it's 3.6%. So there's been a real shift away from saving money. And in what is one of the problems we're having with credit cards is because there is both less savings and two, less available credit for consumers. When people have an issue, they put it on their credit card. What I'm seeing, and is both borne out by statistics, is there has been an increase in consumers who are struggling with credit card debt. Total amount of debt is $1.25 trillion, not quite the peak it was in 2007, but right below it. The average amount of credit card debt is, again, right below the peak in 2008. The number of consumers that are in 90-day delinquencies is right now at 13.2%, which is just below the high of 13.7% in 2008. And why this is compelling information, I'm citing that the high point of our credit card crisis was during the worst recession we had in the last 30, 40 years. And right now, our economy is not in a recession. So we're actually in a fairly stable economy, and we're seeing a credit card crisis. So you really are seeing that people are hitting the wall with credit card spending, particularly about 25 to 30% of Americans are struggling.
What I think I just heard is if Elon Musk sold all his SpaceX shares, he could pay off everyone's debt in America. Put us back to zero, Elon.
That is 100% correct.
So wild to think about. When you're talking credit card debt, does that include Klarna and all the buy now, pay later stuff you see popping up online? Is that wrapped into that stat?
No, and what? Yeah, that's the right look.
No way. I assumed it was all. So that's even on top of credit card debt.
Yeah, so yeah, and what's happened with that buy now pay later is people were being constrained by what they can spend on their credit card. They were hitting their limits and they still wanted to spend, which is a scary thought in and of itself. And the buy now pay later is like everything else. It makes it think that it's easy to do, but then becomes hard later on. And you know, you're in the life lesson business. You want to live your life like do the hard thing first because the reward comes later, not do the easy thing now with the pain comes later. But that's what's going on with buy now, pay later.
Whoa. So would you recommend buy now, pay later for people?
Well, first of all, most people who are doing it are people that are overspending on credit card and need another place to get credit. So for those people, that's not a solution. That's making your problem worse. If you are actually disciplined in your credit card usage, meaning you are using less than 30% of your available credit, that's the golden line, 30% of available credit. If you're below it, that's showing discipline. Your credit card companies like you to use 25 to 30% of your available credit. That's how they define a good creditor. That's how you get a good credit score. Not having zero credit debt doesn't get you a good credit score, oddly, but 25% gets you a good credit score if you pay on time. So if you're disciplined and you can actually buy now and then make the 3 or 4 payments on time, then it can be economically beneficial. But what happens is you buy and then you miss one of those 3 or 4 payments. All of a sudden, default interest kicks in and you're now worse off.
So let's go down that channel or that lane. Say you do miss a payment. What happens then? Buy now, pay later.
A lot of those buy now, pay laters is no or low interest, but it's all contingent on timely making each of those 3 or 4 or maybe 6 payments. Well, as soon as you are late or miss one of those payments, now you're paying the 20% or 25% that you'd be paying on your credit card. There's a late fee. So all of a sudden it becomes as expensive or more expensive than the credit card.
Whoa. And what happens? Juxtapose that to missing a credit card payment. What happens when you miss a credit card payment or don't pay off the balance of a credit card, just pay the minimum?
Well, those two separate things. If you're late on your payment, they charge you $32. Uh, if you continue to miss payments, you become delinquent 90 days. They then charge default interest that can be up to 30%.
30%?
Yes.
So every $100 you have delinquent is 30 bucks.
Yes. And this is, I want to jump in and talk about, you mentioned the minimum monthly payment. And in my spare time, I wrote a book. It's called Say Goodbye to Credit Card Debt. And one of the things that I identify in that book are the traps using in the credit card. And some of these traps are intentional and laid out by the banks to ensnare you into a cycle of debt. And their number one trap is the minimum monthly payment. And if you give me a minute, I'd like to make sure people understand that.
Yeah, hit them with it. This is important.
Boom.
Boom, baby. Come on, Bill.
It's designed to make you think that if I make the minimum payment, life is good. I'm playing the credit card game. I'm doing what I'm supposed to. But that minimum payment is usually 4% of the outstanding balance. It also includes all interest payable on that you've accrued that month on that credit card balance. So let's just make it simple. You have $1,000 credit card balance. You're being charged 20% interest. The minimum monthly payment is 4% of $1,000. So the minimum monthly payment is 40. Well, remember, it includes the interest on that $1,000. So that's about $17. So when you make the minimum monthly payment, you're paying $17 of interest, $23 towards the principal. So you're only making $23 payment against the principal. So what happens next month? You don't owe $1,000, you owe $1,074. Then the next month it's $1,129. The next month, because you're only paying so little of the principal, it builds up. Why do the banks design it that way? Because they make money on interest.
Well, and then you're not even chipping away. Even if you're making the minimum payments, what I just heard you say is the balance grows. The balance doesn't even get smaller.
Correct. And so if you're only making the minimum monthly payment, you're unlikely to ever be in a position to pay off the full balance. And it's designed to trap you in the cycle of debt. It's one of the most pernicious things, and most people aren't aware of it.
So our country has $1 trillion in national debt that will never pay off. Why should an individual worry about paying it off? Why not just always pay the minimums and then die?
You know what? That's a great question. And the simple answer is two things. Number one, you'll be paying a lot of extra interest your whole life when you could have minimized that interest. When you pay less interest, that means you have money to buy stuff you want rather than giving more money to the bank. It's that simple. So yeah, you can do that, but you're going to enrich the banks rather than take a nice trip with you and your family or buy a newer, nicer car. So it depends just where you want to allocate your money, to you or to the bank.
Well, and I suppose in my example, I was picturing you just always keep buying more, only paying the minimums. But they probably cap you at a certain amount, right? You can only take so much debt out. So if you only pay the minimums, eventually you'll hit the roof. You can't buy anything else. And so you're kind of trapped.
You're trapped. So you're trapped, right? Exactly. You're trapped by just paying the minimum monthly payment. And to your point, if you keep doing it, you'll hit your credit limit and you won't be able to buy anymore.
So that probably is where the buy now, pay later sneaks in, because someone hits their cap, they start doing buy now, pay later. And then that doesn't affect their credit limit, but they're growing their debt.
Correct.
Who's monitoring this? Is there a cap to this? Could you do buy now, pay later on everything?
Well, I assume that buy now, pay later, people are tracking your purchases just like the credit card companies. One of the more recent changes is when they first started buy now, pay later, those purchases were not reported to the credit reporting agencies. The credit reporting agencies are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. They are changing that, and they're starting to report those buy now, pay later transactions so they can be tracked.
Hey, everyone. Quick 10-second ask from you. If you're digging the show and you're watching on YouTube, please give it a thumbs up and comment your favorite part. If you're listening on Spotify, please give this show a 5-star rating. On iTunes, please leave a quick review. If you're listening on Substack, please subscribe and join the comments. You may want to subscribe in a few different places. For example, YouTube, you get all of our short content, 60-second to 90-second clips, our segments where we segment out 1 to 6 minute different segments of each episode. And then if you subscribe on the Substack, I summarize the episode in a newsletter. You can read it in a couple minutes. And then a couple days after the episode, I put out a self-reflection guide to help you personalize the content to your life. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Please share it with a friend. I'm going to go down a little tangent here, Bill, because this is a practice I picked up after reading a Wall Street Journal article several years ago where I have actually frozen my credit at the three big credit trackers, TransUnion, Equifax, and the other one, because so many people are stealing people's social security numbers, running up credit on someone else's accounts, essentially. And then you get screwed in a big way. And it's impossible for someone to take credit out in your name if you have frozen your credit. What's annoying for me is if I want to buy a car and take out a loan on that, or if I want to do any credit stuff, you have to remember to go in and thaw your credit for a couple days while you work through all that stuff. Are you a proponent of frozen credit? What's your take on freezing your credit?
I'm aware of that being available, and that is a good tool. I haven't done it. I don't go out, probably not like you. I'm not going out and buying large items. Day to day, you can have your credit frozen. It's only if you're going to go out and make a major purchase do you really need to have your credit unfrozen. I just think most people are not aware of it, so they don't do it.
Yeah.
But
And it's
to
totally
your point,
free. It's
it's
a little inconvenient, but it is free. And it's like I was paying so many subscriptions to like LifeLock and all these. My business has some benefits where they help monitor your credit. And it's like, you don't need any of that crap. If for free, you log into these places and just freeze your credit.
now that's actually I appreciate you bringing that up because that's a great tool. It's a great reminder for me because why haven't I done that? Um, and also, you can get a free credit report. They're obligated to provide you a free credit report every year. And I really would urge consumers to at least once a year to pull their credit card to see what's on it. Because to your point, if someone has misused your credit or improperly reported something to your credit reporting agency, you're not going to know that unless you pull your credit report.
Yeah.
It's like going to school and never looking at your grades. You don't know where you are.
Great point. Great point, Bill. You should check out your credit. What frequency? You think once a year, a couple times a year?
Once a year, once every 6 months. But yeah, you can get a free credit report once a year.
Yeah, that's a really great reminder. For me, actually, since I freeze my credit, it's kind of out of sight, out of mind, but I should go in and check just to be sure there. So, all right, a lot of people listening right now are thinking, crap, man, I've got a balance on my credit card. The probability is just, or the odds are in the favor of 60% of people listening right now have a balance on their credit card. What did they do, Bill? What did they do?
Well, depends where you are. If you're someone who has the ability to add $100, $200 to that minimum monthly payment, then you can work it down. And again, the magic line is 25%, 30%. You don't want to be spending more than 25, 30% of the line of credit on your credit card.
So the credit
Uh,
card company gives me a $10,000 limit and I feel rich, baby, because I got 10 grand to spend on this plastic. But really what I think I hear you saying is you really only want to spend 2,500 to 3,000. You only want to carry a 2,500 to $3,000 balance on that credit card to stay in that 25 to 30% threshold. Is that what you're saying?
correct. More of that 25% rate, $2,500, because then if something happens, then you have a little room. Here's the other challenge that a lot of consumers have. There's somebody who's, let's say, $5,000, $6,000 in debt out of the $10,000 limit. So they're above that. They're paying maybe a little more than the monthly, but then there's something happens in their life. Uh, that there's a loss of income. Maybe they lost some overtime. Maybe they changed jobs. You're not making as much. Maybe the bonuses aren't as big. Or if there's an unexpected expense, car repair, uh, major plumbing repair, major roof repair, relative dies, divorce. Next thing you know, people are using that credit card to finance the shortfall in income or finance that expense. Now you've gone from 50% use of your credit Now you're up at 60, 70%. If you don't adjust your payments, now you're paying more interest. Now you're in a cycle of debt you can't ever get out. So the, the long answer to your question is if you have the ability to pay down that debt, do it. If you don't, if you're sitting there right now and all you can pay is the minimum, or you're struggling to pay those payments, then you need to think about a debt relief option to get out of debt, to solve that problem and get out of that cycle of debt.
Debt relief. What's that?
Doesn't doesn't sound very sexy, does it? There's nothing.
Oh,
There's
they should
nothing.
dress that up a little bit.
They've got to find something to make that sound better. But debt relief, it sounds like a visit to a proctologist, and it is. But there are four different types of debt relief. And it starts at the easiest, which is a loan consolidation, which is you take all your credit card debt that you're paying 18 to 23% on, put it in one personal loan, probably paying 12, 14%, probably need to secure it with equity in your home. But now you've reduced your monthly payments, you're paying less interest, you put yourself in a position to pay down that debt. If you don't have the correct credit score to get that loan, you don't have equity in the house to secure that loan, then you can look at credit counseling. Credit counseling restructures your debt. It doesn't reduce your debt, but it restructures it. Again, you have to qualify it just like you have to qualify for a loan. But what it does is, again, restructures the payment, extends the payment, reduces the interest. Now, if your debt problem is such as that you need to actually reduce the total amount of principal, then the next option kicks in. That's debt settlement. And that's when you intentionally default on your credit cards, save up money, and then negotiate a principal reduction on each credit card. So if you owed 3,000 or 6,000 to Chase, you negotiate with Chase to reduce that principal balance by say 35 to 45%. Now, if you don't have equity in your home you, and you are struggling, there's Chapter 7 bankruptcy, and that allows you to flush your debt out. But obviously, people who have good incomes, own homes, aren't going to qualify for Chapter 7. So if you look at, you could almost see like a step ladder. Easiest or the least intrusive loan consolidation. Next, credit counseling. If you're deeper in debt, debt settlement. And if you're really in trouble and you don't have good income and good assets, it's Chapter 7.
I hear commercials every now and again for maybe it's debt settlement where they kind of represent you. Are you a fan of those types of services?
Debt settlement works. And in my book called Say Goodbye to Debt, to Credit Card Debt, I talk extensively about what debt settlement is, whether you should use professionals or do it yourself. And if you want to do it yourself, I explain the process. Even if you decided after reading the book, Say Goodbye to Credit Card Debt, which you can get on my website, Legal Edge Debt Solutions, you can download the book for free, or you can go to Amazon and buy it. I don't care. You can do either one. But if you read that section about debt settlement, you'll understand the process. You'll understand that it's not hard, but it's not easy. It requires patience. It requires discipline. It's a 3 to 4 year process. You have to end up
Whoa.
arm wrestling with your creditors. So a lot of people are better off because they don't want to arm wrestle with their creditors. They don't. They want someone else to handle those negotiations for them. They want a kind of a prepackaged program that the professionals are better.
Wow. Wow. I feel like I'm going to say something and it might come off a little harsh. One of my go to Bible examples when someone's harsh on me is God chastises those he loves. And I've got 2 young boys and I'm hard on them because I love them and I want them to grow up into great men. So, in that spirit, I'm going to say something and then I want you to polish, refine, file down what I'm about to say, Bill. If you're in credit card debt right now, you got to do whatever it takes to get out of that debt. Well, I just heard Bill say it takes up to 4 years to do this. You got to do it. Don't look at it and turn a blind eye to it, because I'm a big believer that you cannot experience peace while you're in debt. There's no way, with that monkey on your back, with that rain cloud over your head, you can live a fulfilled life. This whole show is about fulfillment. And you got to go Dave Ramsey, beans and rice, sell your car, adjust your style of living, have the hard conversation with your spouse. If you're in debt, adjust your lifestyle. You got to punch 911 and get out of it and do whatever it takes. All right.
Eh, You're
Clarify for
100%
me.
right.
Smack me down, Bill.
No, you're not. If you've got a debt relief problem, and again, we've defined it as you're either only making minimum monthly payments or struggling to make a minimum monthly payments. You have driven past the Dave Ramsey off ramp on the road to life. And unfortunately, you're getting off the Bill Mitchell off ramp in life, which is debt relief, which doesn't sound as good as Green Acres or Happy Valley. But your point is right. You have to take action. And what I want to say to your listeners, I mentioned my website, Legal Edge Debt Solutions. On that website is an assessment. It's 19 questions. It's free. It's confidential. It's easy. You take that assessment, and that'll help you decide which of those four debt relief options is best suited for you. And then would hook you up with a reputable, verified provider of those services. Because so often, and this is very unfortunate, a lot of times when people get into debt, they start getting solicitations. They get unsolicited offers for
Mm-hmm.
loans. They get calls to their home. That's because people are buying their credit debt and seeing that they're in trouble. In other words, if you're not looking at your credit report and understanding you're in trouble, other people are pulling your credit report and finding out you're in trouble. And then they're going to call you and they're going to mail you and try to sell you their solution. What I'm telling you, and this is the most important thing, find out your options and figure out which solution is best for you. And that assessment on the website will help you figure out which solution is best for you to get out of debt.
Give me some hope here, Bill. Talk to me about someone you've heard of that's worked the Bill Mitchell exit ramp, which I kind of envision like you're on the highway, a truck's brakes don't work, you're coming to a big hill and you got to go. There's gravel and it just runs up that gravel slope there. Give me a case of where it worked out really well.
I have the pleasure of talking to consumers all over this country, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee. The guy I talked to yesterday just happened to be in Menifee, California, Georgia, Texas. And I hear their stories, how they got into debt. And it's always the same two things for 90% of the time: loss of income, unexpected expense. They get into a debt settlement program. Often, some of those people didn't know what they were getting into, which is why I wrote the book and have the assessment. But I also hear if they stick with it, they pay off those debts and they can get out of debt. And the one advantage of whether it's a credit counseling program, Chapter 7, or debt settlement, when you're done with the program, you don't have credit card debt. And to your point, yes, amen. It's because it's free. And to your point, when you have debt, it is a rain cloud over your head. It's sucking energy and life out of you. And the sooner you take action, the sooner you get that issue solved, and the sooner you can go on with your life.
Yeah. So this is clearly a big part of your book. And I'm feeling compelled. Go on to Amazon and get it. If you need this, go and get it. Take the assessment at Bill's website. If you got to put the book on a credit card to buy it and you're not going to pay that credit card off, DM me, send me your address, and I'll send you Bill's book because this is critical. We got to handle this as a nation. It's affecting us. It's affecting our families. It's affecting our children. It's affecting the way we interact with people because we can't be the best versions of ourselves if there's an ankle weight tied around our body. And we got to start making steps, paying that off. And I even think, would you say this is fair, Bill? There's freedom once you have a plan in place and you start working that plan. So you don't have to wait 4 years to pay off the whole nut. Week one, you have the plan, and you, even before you make that first payment, you've got a plan to freedom. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Your prison sentence is coming to an end. You can see the date on the calendar. Have you, when you talk to people, do they say they experience those sort of emotions?
Absolutely. You know this through your other guests. The best antidote for fear or any challenge is action. And the minute you take that first step, it's all of a sudden, okay,
Mm,
some relief. I'm
yeah.
getting relief because I'm doing something to get unstuck. I'm getting my myself on a road to getting out of debt and solving this problem.
Yeah. Wow. So that's a huge chunk of your book. What other nuggets can you give us from your book, Bill? What else is between the front and back pages?
Well, it's not as compelling as what we've just been talking about, but I give a little history about credit card debt. And keep in mind, credit card debt is relatively new. In 1980, there was only 600 uh, uh, billion dollars, or actually, no, it's 2000. 2000 was $600 billion credit card debt. Now it's 1.2 trillion. What's happened over our lives in the last, say, 30, 40 years is we've had a culture shift where they convince you to spend more money than you have and make it easy to do that. They make it easy because everywhere you go, you have to just pull out your car and tap. They make it easy because anytime you buy anything, they have that little machine there, just tap. So they want you to not use your cash. They want you to put it on the credit card. So, and then they've convinced you don't need to save, that you all would need to spend. I mean, you watch TV, almost every major creditable celebrity is out pitching credit cards. Use
Yeah.
your credit cards, get
Yeah.
rewards. So they're telling us to spend more and making it easy to do it. So the reason I tell you this is because it's easy to get into debt. They've made it easy. So don't blame yourself. Don't get mad at yourself. Don't kick yourself in the butt. Just realize they've made it easy to put you in this situation. They've made it easy and tried to get you trapped into debt, but you have the ability to get out.
Mm. I like that framing because it is easy to get down on yourself. How would I find myself in this position? How'd you find yourself in that position? The greatest minds on earth, maybe second to the tobacco companies, have engineered the credit card system to slip into your life in the most discreet, pleasurable ways. That's how you slipped into it. And so, yeah, maybe in a sense, it's like relieve yourself of that guilt. What happened, happened. Now you know the way the game is played. And like you said, Bill, action will bring peace. You don't even have to wait to get to the end to feel that peace. Action on day one, finding that plan. And it'll probably hurt, right? Because if I'm just
Oh,
thinking
will
through
hurt. Oh, yeah.
practically,
Yeah.
you got to make changes, and
Yeah.
change is hard. So you got to change your lifestyle. You got to have hard conversations with those you love. You got to change things. And that will be very uncomfortable. And it will probably make that relationship stronger or destroy that relationship. And either way, it's probably a valuable outcome.
Yeah. It's a valuable outcome. Yeah. And three of the four options all have some measure of pain. The loan consolidation is very modest pain. But then as you move down the options, there is more pain. But again, uh, depending on how deep you're in, you're going to need more pain. It's almost like an equation: more debt, more pain to get out. But
Yeah. I think we already talked about this answer, but I'm going to ask it just so it's out there, plain and simple. Is it worth the pain to get to the other side?
well, yes, or otherwise you're trapped into debt. And trapped into debt, meaning you're taking more of your income and giving it to the banks in the form of interest. And the only way to reduce you building wealth for the banks and to start building wealth for yourself is to reduce the principal balance and the amount of interest you're paying on your debt.
We're already giving so much to Uncle Sam. We go out and for like the first 3-4 months of the year, everything we earn, Uncle Sam reaches into our pocket and takes it out. And the thought of giving more of our hard-earned money to some corporation that we don't actually see value. I'm fine giving some of my money if they give me a service or an item, but to pay someone to get nothing out of it feels like the biggest waste of money ever. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Dave Ramsey, who has a great line about it, says that if you're in that cycle of debt, you're working for the banks, not yourself.
He's so pithy. I mean, that's why he's one of the best. He's got so many great lines. When I read his book, Financial Peace, the first time when I was in college, my mom had it from the library sitting next to the toilet. I'll tell you what, Bill, my legs went numb. And it was so compelling. I think I was on the toilet for like an hour and a half, front to back, finished that puppy. And changed my life. I was fortunate, though, to discover it early on. And even I still went into credit card debt. I had a job early on where I drove a lot for work. And I'm a salesman, so I've always traveled. And I thought, I'm going to get the BP credit card because I save like 3 cents a gallon and I earn rewards, get travel, free travel, blah, blah, blah. Well, I got that card because I won a bonus at work for $1,000 or something. And I thought, I want to buy a new MacBook. And a MacBook costs $1,000. So instead of waiting for my bonus to clear, I'm just going to buy it today. I'm going to get this BP credit card. It'll give me all the benefits on the gas and stuff. And I get to get my computer today. And when my bonus comes in, I'll pay it off. Bada bing. So I know how easy it is to fall into this trap. Well, guess what I didn't calculate? Taxes. Guess what I didn't calculate?
Right.
The bonus didn't get paid in the next pay cycle. It took me like a month and a half to actually get paid. And by that time, I had a balance on my credit card. So like you were talking about earlier, I was making minimums or probably even above minimum payment. But the balance kept going up. It was insane. And it took me 9 months to pay off that $1,000 purchase with a bonus that was supposed to pay it off. And it snowballed so radically in the wrong direction. This is after reading Dave's Financial Peace. Like I had all the knowledge in my head and I still slipped into it, which is why I'm telling people what you said, Bill. I'm affirming, underlining, highlighting what you said. Don't feel bad. It can happen. It happens. It happens. And I went beans and rice. I went crazy on it. And it still took me 9 months. I mean, I was making no money, but it was a priority to me. I had to forego weekends out with friends. I had to forego restaurants. I had to make all my own meals, which consisted mostly of chips and salsa. Maybe that's actually where my love of chips and salsa came from. To this day, it's like my favorite meal, chips and salsa. But a lot of PB&J. So anyway, that's just for those of you out there. I'm not preaching from a ivory tower. Like I've been in it. I felt the pain. I have felt the cloud. And getting out of it, I printed my last statement when I paid off that balance and ended up closing the credit card. I printed it out and kept it in a frame next to my desk for years, just as a reminder, never do that again. Never do that again.
Yeah. And it's funny. I would talk about how you get the cycle of debt. The minimum monthly payment is such a trap. On every credit card statement, there is a box just above what the minimum payment is in your balance that says how long it will take you to pay off the principal balance if you only make the minimum monthly payments. And I guarantee, ask every one of your listeners to look at their credit card statement that has a balance, and it'll say 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 11 years. But people don't somehow read it and get what a trap that minimum monthly payment is.
Yeah. And the reality is you ain't going to stop spending money. You're going to keep swiping that puppy in those 5 years. So that balance is going to keep going. It's so wild that credit cards exist. And as a stockholder in the global economy, I'm selfishly a fan of it because consumerism drives up
Right.
stock prices, and I end up benefiting on the back end by higher stock prices, more dividends, all that stuff. But as a human being, I'm like, I'd rather my gains not be as high if my neighbor Joe Schmo didn't have that monkey on his back. Like,
Right. Right.
so to me, I see it as like, Bill, we're never getting rid of debt. There's too much money in it. There's too
No,
many
no.
people
Yeah.
interested in it. So we need to take a little self control and handle it ourselves.
Yeah, part of it is self control, but it's also financial literacy. I know you're well aware of this, but we don't have a lot of financial literacy in this country. It's not often taught in schools. People somehow don't end up talking about their credit card balances when they go out for a beer. We
Shocking.
have a little bit of believe that our personal financial dealings are private or confidential or somehow big secret, or we're embarrassed to talk about them because we don't know what we're talking about. We don't. So part of it is it's control, but also it's knowledge, awareness, it's information. There's not enough conversation about personal finance. Most people aren't as savvy as they think. They may know a lot more about the stock market than balancing their own checkbook. So part of it's a cultural lack of awareness of and information about financial literacy. So that's also part of the issue.
It is crazy. I've had several conversations with people that make a ton of cash. We're talking about portfolios. We're talking about their non qualified accounts or qualified accounts, all their stuff, their insurances, blah, blah, blah. And then they let slip later in the night that they've got a big credit card balance. And I'm like, you're focusing on the wrong thing, brother. You got to get your eye on the prize, knock that out, and start building real wealth.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really it's stunning. And again, you know, the you'll notice that the banks are now promoting financial literacy. There's there's a reason that's more likely to get a sex ed class than a personal finance class in high school. So
Whoa, that's a
oddly,
soundbite. That is, wow.
so
Wow. All right, Bill, where do we go next? What else do you have to tell the audience?
just one other little tidbit, which is a lot of times we hear all about our credit score and how important it is. But when you've got a debt issue, you have to understand you're going to trash your credit score. First of all, if you've got a debt issue, your credit score is probably not over 700 or 710 anyways, because you're have high utilization or you're later missing payments. Keep in mind when you pick one of those options, particularly debt settlement, credit and bankruptcy, it's going to trash your credit score. But when you have a debt problem, it's more important to solve the debt problem than worry about your credit score. Because once you solve your debt problem, your credit score is going to go back up. Your credit score is a picture in time of your credit worthiness. If you have a debt problem, you are low credit worthy. If you solve your debt problem, you'll be high credit worthy. So don't worry about trashing your credit score. It's temporary because again, a credit score is a picture in time.
Mm.
It's dynamic.
I'm so happy you called that out. I could foresee someone saying, oh, if I do chapter 7 or one of these other things, my credit score is going to get bombed. Your credit score doesn't matter if you've got a ton of debt, anyways. So take the path less traveled, clean it up, and then rebuild your credit score. Focus on what matters most in the moment. Make sure the dominoes are in the right order so that the right one falls into the next one. If you're so worried about credit score that you never address your credit issue in the first place, you're never going to have a great score to begin with. So just knock out the debt. And that makes it sound trite and simple. And I know it's not. But focus and put the hard work into paying off the debt. Then focus on your credit score because then you have a higher threshold of success on the credit score.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Bill, you get the last word. Bring us home. I'm going to drop your book link and your website in the show notes so people can click into that. What else? Where else can we find you online?
I would just say go to the website, Legal Edge Debt Solutions. I have videos. I've got some information. You can download the book for free or buy it on Amazon. I have the personal assessments. This may surprise you. I'm not selling anything on the website. I'm providing information. I want, because I've talked to consumers for 10, 15 years. I've heard their stories, and I wanted to create a website that had the information consumers need to get out of debt.
Okay, I was going to wrap it there and just thank you and say goodbye, but now I need to know, why aren't you selling anything? Why did you write a book? Why'd you make a website? Why are you giving away everything for free? I see you with the nice sky view behind you in California. You got a nice office. Uh, what? How are you paying for that if not by this?
Oh, I've only practiced law for 40 years, so I've been at it for a while. So, um, the website makes me money because if consumers go on that website, take the assessment, and they end up going to a professional debt settlement company or credit counseling company, I'll get a referral fee. So so that's how I make my money. It's not a lot, but again, I've pushed most of the right buttons for 40 years. So this wasn't my way of saying, hey, I gotta clean up here at the end. So, and I've said it twice before, but I talk to consumers, people who have thought they were doing the right thing, worked hard, but found themselves in a difficult situation. And so often I just heard they were somebody sold them a debt program, sold them a solution program that wasn't right for them. They didn't understand. And I was just really trying to give everybody resources that, that wanted to learn more to get that information so they could figure out what's the best option for me and to understand that option. So that was my goal.
Yeah, well, and that's one reason I wanted you. Well, the main reason I wanted you on this show, Bill, is I saw a man with a successful practice, and you had so many encounters with negative debt situations. You thought, I've got a lot of knowledge and a lot of capability to help people. And I don't think it is yeah, you make a couple referral dollars, but it's not it's not about that. It's about training people with a lifetime of experience that you have so that they don't make the mistakes that the people you've worked with have made, that the people you've seen have made. And to me, that's very noble to, instead of just monetize everything you're doing up until the last day, be giving and self-giving to people with your knowledge and share it forward. And as my man Zig Ziglar said, if you help enough people get what they want, you can get what you want. And it just is so great. I'm so grateful for you and the work you're doing.
Thank you. And again, you get older, you want to share what you know. As you well know, you cannot take it with you.
Amen. Bill, thank you so much for coming on Fulfillment Project today.
Hey, really enjoyed it and really appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. If you haven't, please subscribe, hit the thumb up, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. I know you know someone that needs to hear Bill's words today. See you next time.